Welcome to the Ride of My Life podcast. I'm Caroline Rena, and here, let the ride inside adventure begin. I will share what it's like on my own healing journey, and through what I learn and become aware of, provide insight to your journey as well. Hey everyone, I'm Caroline Rena, and this is the Ride of My Life podcast. And today I am with Calvin Niles, and I'll let him go into more detail. He's actually in the UK at the moment, so we've got about 5 hours time difference between us. But I really appreciate you being here. And I'm going to start off with a quick introduction, and then we'll dive right in.
Sounds good.
All right. So Calvin is known as the Mindful Storyteller and is making a positive impact on the lives of many through his mindfulness, storytelling, and coaching services. And he's published a number of books, including the well-received debut novel, The Sun Rises in Eastmore. And that'd be cool if you could talk a little bit about that too when we go through this. And featured on Brains Magazine's 500 Global Awards list of 2021, Calvin teaches people how to be clear, confident, authentic, and impactful in their work and life so that they can reach their potential. So Calvin, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. I really
delighted to be here with
you. So I think we're going to have a really good time with this one because I'm a writer myself, and I've always been interested in storytelling. And as I was doing my own healing work, I was also introduced to mindfulness, and that's very powerful. And how you incorporate, this is what I'm looking forward to hearing and you sharing with everyone, is how you incorporate all these together with the work that you do. So the first thing I'm going to ask you is, what is it that you do? The coaching, the mindfulness, the storytelling, just go for it.
Thank you for asking. And so good to be here with you. I guess storytelling, we are familiar with the word storytelling, right?
Mm-hmm.
We know about storytelling from a consumer point of view when we go to the movies, when we read books, when we hear somebody tell us a story, or we might even, when we're consuming the news or the media, we might say, oh, I just caught this news story. But what really is a story is one of the sort of eternal questions. And as it pertains to our own experience in the world, what are the benefits and limits of stories? So our minds love stories. The human brain loves stories. We make meaning with stories. We take all these different things that seem to be disparate data points and organize them in a narrative. And that helps us to navigate the world. That helps us to give and create meaning. But this is also how we can create perspective shifts, right? So you might hear people talking about, actually, I've reframed that. It's just telling yourself a different story about exactly the same event. The event itself is fixed, but the interpretation and the meaning that you glean from that event has changed. So what allows us to develop that degree of flexibility to change our perspective around certain events? Well, I like to say it's being aware or being mindful of the stories we're telling ourselves, and being mindful of the stories we're telling the world, other people, what we're projecting out there. So this is where the mindfulness component comes in. So what actually is involved in the stories? Well, apart from my strategic storytelling work, which I do with a number of companies in the UK and people one-to-one and business owners, there's a big holistic component too. And this is where the real power of mindful storytelling can be extracted. And I like to use the hero's journey as a template. And I've teamed up with a good friend of mine, Shamash Aladina, and a trainer in acceptance commitment therapy. And we've come together to create this way of using the hero's journey to get unstuck in your lives by applying mindfulness and acceptance. So what is the hero's journey? Most people who are into stories would have come across that. But if you're not really a student of storytelling or don't really pay much attention, the hero's journey is very basic template or very basic structure that a man called Joseph Campbell originated, but it's since evolved and people use it as a way of sort of mapping a journey of transformation of a particular person through an experience. And that person is the hero. So we say in our lives, you know, like you and I, we're the hero of our own lives.
That's right.
Whether we know it or not.
That's right.
And we're on this journey of our life, aren't we?
Yep.
And sometimes we need help. We need help along the way. And these things, we can use the hero's journey to tease that out, you know, moving from the first stage, which is the ordinary world, all the way through to returning with the elixir, which is a circular structure of the stories, which are broken down into 12 phases, 3 broad stages: departure, initiation, return, and 12 steps along those broad stages, which I hope to share a bit more with you in this conversation.
Yes, for sure. Awesome. So how did you, so I always do this with everybody because this is, for me, it's the best part, I think, but well, the second best part maybe, but how did you get into it? Like, I want to know the big question, what is your story?
Yeah, it's a great question. Yeah. So, I mean, first of all, I would say that we have multiple stories, all of us. There's no one sort of story that we have, but we do tend to have very big events in our lives, which can be quite defining. And
absolutely,
that becomes
or we wouldn't be sitting here, just saying.
Correct, right. And we've had these conversations, you and I, in the past. So you know, some of these big defining moments, they tend to be big emotional moments, big changes, and we might realize them in human challenges like loss, like relational issues, like illness or sickness and disease, and so on. My own journey, I would say I've been very fortunate to have been raised in a family that was metaphysical and into mindfulness meditation in various ways.
Okay.
But you know, one of the really interesting things about that is I've always said it's akin to, you know, I don't know if you had this experience when you were a child, but if you've ever gone to school and not known what was in your lunchbox, but you know your parents have packed you lunch, and you had no idea what was in there, right?
You're right. Right.
So I think it's akin to that. It's like you get packed with these tools or something that help you for the rest of your day, but you don't actually really realize how valuable it is or even what it is until it comes to the point where you have to start going, oh, what is for lunch? How do I actually make what's in here? What's the value of this? Can I share it? And so on. And then you start to really think, oh, mom made this for me, and so on. So it wasn't until I basically was faced with my own existential question about what's my role as a father and a husband when my marriage broke down, and I wasn't living in the same home as a family unit with my family, and all these existential questions about what is life and what is my role, and what is the whole purpose of it, you know?
Can I interrupt real quick? That's an important piece, because a lot of people have that question. It's like, why am I here? What is my purpose? What's my point? Why am I going through all of this stuff? And most people can't really get to or a lot of people can't get to the point where they ever get the answers. And that's part of what my intention is, to try to bring people in to see different ways of learning these things about themselves so they can move forward in their lives, do their healing work if they're open, you know, whatever. So I just wanted to say that that's always been something that people are looking for. Yeah. And this is the thing. So, I mean, I suppose what I could do is I can frame it in the context of the mindful storytelling hero's journey, right? Because you know, the 12 stages of the hero's journey go something like this. You have your ordinary world. In your ordinary world, things are calm. You wake up, you do everything on autopilot,
and you know where everything is. You can do everything with your eyes closed. But then something goes wrong somewhere, and you then have to go out of autopilot and embark on a different trajectory. There's an invitation that comes, and that invitation is called the call to adventure. Now you're called to adventure. So in my story, I've been called to adventure because everything in my ordinary world is fine. My life as a husband, a father, I had a corporate career, I was getting paid decent money, we had 3 holidays a year, blah, blah, blah. And once the relationship started to falter, and you know, all the fear that arises of, you know, who am I without my family?
Right.
What is it? Am I going to be able to still be in my kids' lives? What am I going to do now? I remember being lost for a good 4 years trying to figure that one out. But the call to adventure is, of course, you know, after that point, there is that, do you want to take this journey into realizing a new version of yourself? That's the invitation. So that call to adventure comes, and then we have a choice. Do we heed that call or not?
And sometimes we're forced into heeding the call. It's not always a decision.
Yeah, but the thing is with the mindful storytelling, there's a big internal component,
right?
Because we might be physically forced to heed a call, in terms of we might be physically forced to move a country or move house or to leave a particular job or situation. But internally, have we really moved? Have we really taken the journey? Have we really chosen to grow through this journey that we're being invited to take? So a physical journey might have started, or an external journey might have started, but an internal journey might not have started. So this is, it's true, right? And we've all probably faced the version of that where we go, I don't want this to happen. I'm resisting this. And that's called the refusal of the call. Yes. And the refusal of the call is saying, I do not want to go on this journey. No way. I'm not doing it. No. I like comfort zone. I like autopilot.
I'm going to say until the 2x4 hits, but I want to see what the next steps are to get to the 2x4. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, if you get hit by a 2x4 and you really have that wake up moment, that's amazing. But sometimes we need a mentor to appear and help us to take this first step on the journey. Now, in the movies, we know, I don't know if you like films at all, but in the movies, in The Matrix, the mentor is Morpheus. In Lord of the Rings, the mentor is Gandalf, and they invite the hero to take this journey. They can't do the journey for the hero, and this is a really big point. The mentors never do the journey. They've got their own journeys going on, but they're there to inspire you to do yours. So do you want to take the red pill or the blue pill? Right? And at that moment where you decide, I'm going to take the red pill, that's when you go, I'm ready to take this journey. You make an active choice at that point.
So I have a question about that real quick.
Yeah.
A lot of the work I do is stems from trauma. So what I've noticed is there's a lot of people, including myself, who, because of the trauma, get dysregulated. And there are certain things that help people who go through their lives to get past all of that. And one of the things that I've come to find are, if you get a mentor in your life. Now, there are people out there, and I've gone through this quite a few times, where there was no mentor. Like, I literally had to do this figure out how to do it for myself. So how does that fit in with the 12 steps when you don't get a mentor?
This is a really, really great question. So in our approach to the hero's journey, we're more flexible with how the mentor appears. So the mentor may not actually be a person. The mentor may be a book. It may be a person who's actually passed away, even, and who is somehow an inspiration for you. It may even be your values or particular attitude that you can call on. And in acceptance commitment work,
good.
values are huge. Values are big, big, big drivers. And so we refer to that along the hero's journey through the mindful storytelling lens, because values can be your mentor, but also they can be your allies, which we talk about in the next stage. Because once you've decided, okay, to take that step, you've heeded that call to adventure, the mentors come and said, hey, do you want to go and take this journey? You should, and encouraged you, whether that's the book, whether that's and so on. Then you finally cross the threshold. And you cross the threshold, that is that point where you're now taking this journey for real. This is where internally you've physically already been forced into this circumstance of moving. Now you're internally going, okay, I'm going to grow through this. I'm going to do what I need to do to move from the stuck place that I was into growth. And this is the point where you don't turn back. There is no turning back. Once you cross the threshold, you're into this special world, or you're moving into this phase of initiation, which is where the challenges start to get faced. This is where we're now ready to go, okay, I'm ready to face these challenges.
And there's a matter of persistence too that goes along with that, because because I've also spoken to people who get to that point, and then they're like, no, wait a minute, you know, and then they back off. But you kind of, if you really want to get where you want to go and achieve what you want to achieve, you need to have that persistence to help you get there too, I would think.
Yeah. And this is one of the really important points actually that you raised, is the fear and the resistance might arise over and over and over again. But on the next stage, once you cross the threshold, you then get to the next step, which is test, allies, and enemies. So tests, allies, and enemies.
Favorite.
We get tested all the time. We know that.
Yes.
The enemies are the people bringing those tests. So those tests could be, like you say, a test of resilience, test of commitment. It could be test of determination.
Tests of batteries.
Yeah, test of patience.
Batteries. Like I'm real quick. I told Calvin yesterday, we were supposed to meet to do this yesterday, and my battery died in my car after I arrived at my destination to do this work. And I'm like, oh, okay, now that's a nice little test happening. And he kind of validated that for me. So it was great. That was really great. Yeah.
So that's a great example of the hero's journey right there, right?
There you go.
And the circumstance could, whatever, you see the circumstances as the enemy, you could see the car as the enemy, whatever, however you frame it. Now, we might see people as enemies. I mean, really, we're perceiving them that way. Yes. And they're bringing these tests to us, but we also have allies. Again, like the mentor, the allies can be people, they can be your values, they can be your attitudes, as you talked about. And it's very clear to now start to look for these on the journey. Okay, what are my values? What attitudes are going to be helpful for me to take this journey? Now I've committed to it. You start to create those, you start to identify those. And the beauty of the allies on this journey, the allies, they go with you. So Wizard of Oz, you had, Tin Man, you had Scarecrow, you had the Light, right? In Lord of the Rings, he had his posse. Everybody has their group who helps them along the journey, but they go with them for most of the journey. 90% of the journey, they're there. The mentor doesn't. The mentor inspires you to go on the journey, but your allies are with you.
That's really, I like that. I like how that works. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. Okay.
So once you get there, now is approach to the inmost cave. Now you, again, like you say, you feel like giving up. You don't want to do it. You want to turn around, but you realize you're too far now. So your allies are there to help you. You're still going to be tested, but you're now starting to approach a big, dark cave. This is the next step of the challenge. Once you're approaching that inmost cave, you're tested more. Demons are attacking you. They don't want you to enter this cave. The guardians are there. All these enemies are supposedly trying to stop you. Now, in your life, that might be in a practical, physical sense, it could be like, why can't I get this money that I'm trying to sign this contract because I was meant to get into this new house after the circumstances forced me to move. But internally, it's like, okay, can I actually surrender this to right now? Do I have the patience, the attitude of patience to be able to allow myself the space to see this from a new perspective? What value is going to carry me through now? You know, who on my allies are maybe the right people to lean on in this instance? And you start to identify these challenges.
That's beautiful. That's kind of where I think I'm at right now. So this ought to be fun.
Yeah. So once you do that, then the next question is, okay, are you ready to face the ordeal? What is that thing, that big thing that you've now started to build up the strength towards? Psychologically, you're ready to approach it, but you don't really realize how big this challenge is going to be, and what as well is going to call on from you in terms of resource. You at this moment are in probably the biggest fight you've ever had. And I use the fight very lightly, but really it is lifting weights in the gym, but really heavy weights. You got to lift them to get stronger.
Yeah, I'm learning that right now. Go ahead.
And this is the ordeal. This is the ordeal. And now we're in this ordeal. We are bringing everything that we have learned about our values, about our allies to bear. And therein lies a realization. There's a part of ourselves we get tested so hard. There's a part of ourselves we discover that we didn't really know was even there. And this is a kind of, in a way, discovering a power in this ordeal, in this almighty facing of this battle. You discover a power that you didn't realize you had.
Wow. Okay.
Once you've achieved that, you then leave that battle, the ordeal, with the next stage, which is the reward. The reward is when you realize and truly settle into this new version of yourself. I am not who I used to be anymore. That person who was there yesterday, pre-ordeal, that's now not me.
Okay, this is making a lot of sense.
And because this hero's journey is just universal, isn't it?
Yes.
And
yeah.
The mindful and acceptance part is saying, we're saying that there is a version of ourselves that is greater than our thoughts and our feelings.
Yes. Yep.
You know, we start to realize that, hang on, I'm not my thoughts and my feelings. I'm not just I'm actually just something greater, tapping into a greater reality of a version of myself, sometimes called the observer self or the transcendent self.
And the word that comes to me with that is expansion. It's like when you finally get into that space, which I'm kind of feel like I'm close, but I know that there's this bigness about it. There's this. That's the power to me, is the bigness of the expansion because of I don't know what word to use right now, but the observer state brings that expansion, because you don't just see myopically as to all the horrible things that are going on anymore. Now you see like a bigger picture to things. Yeah,
exactly. And you may even take this moment to stop and celebrate your win, celebrate this realization. You may even take this moment to say, there is a higher version of myself that I am now connected to, which transcends my thoughts and feelings. Wow. And this brings a whole new level of reality to the rest of your journey.
Yes. Yeah. I could.
So you can see that, right?
Yeah, I do. I really do.
And an amazing thing is, everybody goes through the hero's journey in their life multiple times. I mean, and you could say infinite times, because we actually say it's like like fractals. If you know fractals, the patterns just recreate and recreate. I mean, your story yesterday was a hero's journey, just from going through your house to the battery dying to getting back to your house. That's a hero's journey right there. And
I made it.
and you transformed, you know.
And I transformed.
You had the guide, and you had the allies, and a whole day could be a whole week, a whole month. 5 minutes. You might have an interview, a job you're preparing for, and you can break it down into these little stages, even to the micro level. So after you've had the ordeal and you've got the reward, the road back, the journey, the road back to your ordinary world begins. Now, on the road back, the journey is still challenging. But remember, there is a higher version of yourself that you are aware of. So you can now navigate this hero journey with a new perspective, a new way of navigating this space. But here's the thing. Yeah, sorry, go for it.
No, I wanted to say, because I actually had a conversation earlier with my ally, one of my allies, who was bringing that up about some of the stuff that they were going through. And one of the things that was said was, sometimes I feel like I'm going to fall back into the way I was. And the conversation was, and I've heard this before, is that you don't necessarily, well, you can't go back to the way it was. We feel like sometimes, because it's so scary going through things, that we're going to fall back to the same situation or person or whatever who we were. And it doesn't seem to work that way. It's like things like you're saying, the road back, we're on that same road, but we're at a higher level. And I used to describe this as like climbing a mountain and going around the edges of the mountain. Like the higher you get, you're going to always have, it doesn't matter what time of year you're there, you're always going to have a different perspective of what you see when you get to that next level or height on the mountain. So that sounds okay. Yeah. I mean, and that's so powerful and that's scary too, because sometimes you think when you get back to the road back, you think, oh my gosh, all this stuff's going to happen again. But it's not, because now you see it from a different perspective.
Yeah. So, and that's such a great point, because those internal challenges, that the challenges, they still come.
Yes.
And it's
You'll never get rid of those.
You're more equipped now, and you've discovered a version of yourself that a bit more equipped to deal with them.
Yes.
But you may even have another challenge. And in this stage, this is called the resurrection.
Oh, nice.
So you probably will be challenged to your death. Obviously not your literal death, but a figurative death, a metaphorical death. This is another up-leveling on the hero's journey. So in the films and the movies, you thought the heroes just overcome this almighty battle. But guess what? He's had another one. And in that one, he probably actually in the movie died or appeared to have died. And then suddenly he comes back to life and you think, how did that happen? And when he was, either in the hospital or, looking like he was just about to die, he had a vision of somebody, Marvel, Thor's father came to him and said, my son, you can do it. You get these kind of supernatural kind of stories where they, right at that moment, they are reborn. So this is like a second rebirth after the ordeal.
I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Something to look forward to.
And this is the really beautiful thing about it. It's not the same as the ordeal, because the ordeal is the very first time that you've realized this higher version of yourself. But the resurrection, you get pushed to the limit, but you get called upon to rise. And when you do through this challenge, when you do really step into this version of your observer self or your transcendent self, and you use that, you are now a new second version, second rebirth.
Yes.
And then you return home in the final stage with the elixir. The return with the elixir is like, you've got this new gift now. You've got this new realization, this new power. And you've got back to your ordinary world. But guess what? Your ordinary world, the house is the same, the village is the same, the country is the same, wherever it is, physically, it's the same. But it doesn't really look the same to you anymore. Like just exactly what you said on the mountain. The perspective is permanently shifted. So the mountain's still where it always was. Everything looks different from where you are. So the ordinary world is a new ordinary world in some ways. And then you retreat back into the comfort of safety. You are in a autopilot state, which is now of a higher paradigm than you were in before. And you may even become a mentor to others. You may become a mentor to others on their own hero's journey. You will probably share in the fruits of your experience, and you will give guidance, you will inspire, and you will be recognized in your village as you return to your ordinary world. You'll be recognized as somebody who can help. And then the hero journey comes to a full cycle there. And I like how you mentioned that spiral upwards, because, you know, it's very similar in our minds that, you know, this is why we love the fractal idea, because you are going around in a loop, but you're rising up every level, every time,
Yes.
every
Yes.
revolution is just a new level.
Yes.
And this is the hero's journey through the mindfulness and acceptance commitment lens, where we are bringing mindfulness principles, a degree of awareness to our journey. We're able to break it down into these stages. We're able to connect to the observer self. We're able to approach challenges rather than run from them. And we're using a lot of these very basic mindfulness and acceptance principles so that we have the resolve and move from victim to hero.
Nice. Yes. And that's perfect, because victim is not a good place to be. It's just not. So, and that's a perfect segue. We can go on a segue journey here. The most powerful thing is getting to the point, like what I'm doing with this podcast and sharing it and connecting with people like yourself, is to get this out there so people will know this. Like, I don't know how many, I don't look into how many people I'm connected to or whatever. I just like to do this. And when I find someone like you who can, I don't know what it was, I just saw the work you were doing online and I was like, oh, I've got to find out more about this person and share it with everybody. So that was where I went. But the piece, you're welcome. The piece about becoming the mentor, I know that there's like, I'm not quite sure at what level I'm at. I'm probably, I don't know. We're not even gonna figure that one out yet, but maybe that could segue real quick into you kind of, me being the mentor and kind of like an ally to people, I guess is a good way to put it, to show the type of work that you do in a quick version of it with me. And then they can see how it works, and I can, you know, share what the result was afterwards. Now, sometimes I don't always get the result like right in the moment. It takes a few days for it to cycle through and settle in. But this work is incredible and it excites me because I'm a writer and I know about the hero's journey and I've read about it before. And it's like, but you doing it in such a way that that you're helping somebody, that you're guiding somebody through it. I mean, that is so incredible to me, because for me, I am one of those people who didn't have a mentor, didn't really have someone who understood me well enough to be able to guide me in that way. I've had a few people, don't get me wrong, but for the most part, I've had to figure it out on my own. So,
So, I mean, what we could do, if you want to, we can go through the 3 broad phases, and I could maybe ask you to identify some of these people on the journey, and maybe do some very short reflection, if that's something you'd be willing to do.
Absolutely, that's fine. Whatever you choose.
Okay, awesome.
This is me doing it without knowing what's going on. Just remember. Okay, go ahead.
So pat your head and rub your stomach.
No, wait. Okay, you can't see that part, but there you go. Okay, monkey see, monkey do.
You've got the skills. Okay. What I would like to invite you to do, Caroline, is to think about a challenge you have overcome already, something big that you have overcome, and bring that to your mind. And this challenge that you've overcome, what if we could break this journey down into 3 broad sections? We talked about the departure, talked about the initiation and we talked about the return. This big challenge that you've overcome, before the challenge happened, what did your ordinary world look like?
Oh, chaos. It was chaos because I just wasn't, I was very fearful. I wasn't sure if I really had expectation or if it was just like a fear of the unknown of what the next steps were going to be. So basically what I'm working with right now and talking to you is the process that I'm going through right now. It's like leaving everything that I've ever known, and becoming houseless, basically, and stepping in and releasing all of the old traumas that I've had and working with my nervous system. And that piece of it scared me enough to throw me for a loop, because I was doing that in January. And so just moving from the known to the unknown, I think was the biggest kicker for me, because, and I've always been a mover. I've always done this, but now that I'm older, and now that I'm older, it feels different. So it's not the same as being a 20, 30-year-old getting ready to start a new life and, get out there. I'm 57. I'm like, what the heck am I doing? I'm leaving everything. But so.
Got it.
Okay.
So before you actually moved and decided to take this journey, your ordinary world, your routine life was just a life of routine chaos, it sounds like, for you.
Yeah.
What was it then, would you say, called you to take this step? What made you go, I'm making this change?
Well, and I'm going to be vulnerable here. My entire life, this is something that I've always wanted to do, but I've been putting it off because of things like codependency. You mentioned victim. I walked through that years ago and understood what was going on. And so in the last relationship I have, and thank goodness he's one of my allies now, believe it or not, I've never experienced this before, but the conversations that we have and the situation that we had before I came to this point was, I've got to do this. I have to do this now, because I can't do it when I'm 800. I can't wait any longer. I've been postponing it enough. I have to do this now. And not that I didn't get those, you can't do this, you're not going to be able to do this stuff. But I knew that I needed to do it because it's always been something that I've wanted to do. I love traveling. I love connecting with people. I love networking. Interviewing and that type of thing. So,
so for me, that I'm wondering if you were to say, is that your call to adventure?
Is that my call to adventure? Yes.
Yeah.
Heck yeah, it is.
Right. And did you heed that call straight away when you first had it? Something you've wanted to do all your life. It sounds like you refused the call quite a lot.
Yes.
But then eventually you heeded the call. What made you heed the call?
Necessity, desire, the 2x4. Well, it wasn't as big a 2x4 as it usually is, but it was there. I think mostly necessity. I just got to a point, and the fact that I'm an empty nester. I don't have anything holding me back now, or holding me to family responsibility, that type of thing. And it's helpful, to be able to just go and do on my own. So that was a big help too.
Yeah. But you weren't doing it all before. So it wasn't just luck. It was some of the work you had already started doing.
Yeah, right? I've been on my healing journey for over 30 years. So if it wasn't for my going through all of the things that I've worked on, I probably would still be finding a way to get, settle into something I didn't want, I guess, instead of doing the thing that I really do want to do.
Yeah. And can you identify who might have been the mentor, or what might have been the mentor for you at that point of embarking on this journey that you've just embarked on?
I think there were a lot, because you would mention definitely books, definitely cancer of a family member. So that realization was, and it was a young family member who passed. So I think that that was a mentor. Yeah. And I think but the power that that person had in leaving, what they portrayed before leaving the planet was like incredible. And this was not someone who was normally like that. So when I witnessed it, it was like, whoa, you know. So so that, of course, and then my former partner, who also plays an ally now, he helped me walk through a lot of these things, and just books and courses and different, I mean, I did all kinds of different things. Yeah.
So this figure, this young figure who's passed on now, you've identified them as a potential mentor based on the transformation you witnessed that they've actually been through themselves.
Yes.
So we might be seeing exactly, he's probably returned with the elixir and has acted in some capacity as a mentor to you without even realizing it fully. And then you took this journey, and then you assembled your team of allies. Can you identify who the allies might be? Or what? Whether that's more values or attitudes you've picked up and grown into.
I think it's a lot. Definitely people who took me in and worked with me on healing processes. There were still books. I also, believe it, I also like to use, a lot of people don't do this, but I use like divination cards sometimes, or I use like sometimes I use the pendulum. Sometimes I use kinesiology, like talking to my guides, and I'm like, yes or no, what's happening? Should I do whatever, what is in my highest good? So there were a lot of different things I used. And meditation, definitely meditation was one of my things. Go ahead.
These are still things you're using right now. What is on the journey with you right now?
What's on the journey? You mean the tools or the
allies?
The allies. Right now it's
meditation
and journaling, napping.
Nice rest. So you're starting to name some of these things, right? And now you're starting to see, actually, these are allies that are helping me along my journey. So then, as you approach the inmost cave, what is that approach like, and what are you approaching? And is that where you are now, or is that somewhere where you've already passed? And now, because now it sounds like we're moving from past into almost present. Where are you now if you were to place yourself on the journey?
I think I'm just coming out, maybe a little further out of the cave, because I've always used the cave as a protective mechanism anyway. And I feel like whatever is coming, the challenges in life that come, I'm able to face them more. So I feel like I'm on the other side of that cave.
How did you get through that big challenge of the ordeal? Like what happened? When was that moment where you realized I can do this?
After many layers of tears and temper tantrums, and this is one of my processes. It's like calming my nervous system down. That's one of the biggest things over the last month, was working with a friend of mine who helped me teach me to calm my nervous system down. And so being able to work through these things to be able to, hopefully I caught this, because I kind of went off on a tangent in my head. I do that sometimes, so bear with me. Ask me the question again.
No, just wondering how did you realize that you were able to, what was that moment in the ordeal that made you go, I can do this? It sounds like you've tapped into something.
I think I have. I think the moment has just, I mean, it's not a moment really. It's a lot of moments. It's like the moment, then there's another moment, then something happens, and then there becomes another moment. And it's just, it's hard to say. I mean, yesterday when I talked real quick, when I talked about my battery dying, that was a moment, you know, so being able to walk through that, I fell into it initially because I'm like, really, I just got here. You know, and I fell in, and then I'm like, wait, no, then I stopped and breathed, and I have to do this, and I have to take this step, and then take this step. And little by little, I mean, and the allies that I had that took over yesterday for me were incredible, between the guy who came to pick up my vehicle to the people at the dealership who fixed the battery or change the battery out, and I mean everything, to the person, a friend of mine who drove me over there. You know, it was like everything fell into place, and I witnessed it. It was like I'm watching what's happening, and I'm being taken care of. I am being taken care of, and just recognizing and telling myself I am being taken care of. I'm grateful for being taken care of, you know, and witnessing that. And that's not been an easy thing for me to do, because everything was always like this hole for me and I couldn't see that, you know, so I made that a point to witness that.
That's amazing. So what you're doing here is you're self-identifying on your own hero's journey, the transcendent version of yourself, because that's what the witnesser is. That's the witnesser. The witnesser is the transcendent self.
Okay.
And you've also realized that you're in a more accepting position now, because you're accepting your feelings, the feelings that you were trying to avoid for your whole life. You've been able to accept them and let them work through your nervous system. So there's an acceptance and a going into this transcendent version of yourself, which has allowed you to go through this ordeal. And that's literally self-identified in this conversation. And so I guess one of the questions moving forward, and I know you're still moving through the journey, and there are a few stages still yet to go, which would of course be the road back, the resurrection.
I'm looking forward to that.
And remember, these things they're not linear.
Yes. Of course, okay, I'm looking in the moment for that. It's
because
happening
when you're right now, you get a one stage of the hero's journey. You might be on a little mini hero's journey right there and then.
Yeah, I see that.
You had a mini hero journey yesterday.
Yes. Okay.
So when you return with the elixir, what does that look like for you?
Man, okay. This is like, I mean, this is the big journey, not just the battery journey, but the big journey is just connecting with people and sharing. I mean, being like I guess a role model as to how these things can be done, that it's possible, that there's always a possibility, that there's something bigger. Like I said earlier, there's always something bigger than you, me, whatever, that we are still that bigness, the expansion of us, and being able to share that and connect with other people and show them that, again, the possibilities of what that looks like through, and I'm using this journey to do that. And then to be at that point where people start to recognize it in themselves, they see it in me, they can recognize it in themselves, they know that there's the opportunity, that type of thing. I love being able to connect with people and share and guide, you know, and so that's.
Yeah. And do you need any more resources in order to do that?
Of course.
What do you need?
Finances, because I'm kind of doing this on my own, and probably a location, like a home base. I haven't decided whether I'm going to use where I'm at right now as a home base or not. I'm still working through that, but a home base and finances, and, you know, just more networking, more people. I don't know what that looks like yet, so I'm just trusting.
So that's a resource right there. The attitude of trust is a resource.
Okay, that's so good to know. You hear that?
Because you're talking about very external thing when you talk about a physical location. And the beauty of the mindful storytelling approach is we're also looking for the external things and the internal things. So you've talked about trust. straight away is a trusting element there.
Yes.
So it's like, now trust is an ally you're inviting on for your journey. Now,
And
if you
gratitude.
imagine
Gratitude.
trust and gratitude. So now we're inviting these things in. And the other thing you also highlighted is this degree of openness. You highlighted being able to be open to what happens, because you can't predict. So that's linked to the trust, openness. Just the mere fact that we're talking means you're already quite a curious person, and this is woken up in you. So these are some resources that you're starting to identify now for these next stages. And I would say, as if you were to map your whole hero's journey, starting with today as your ordinary world, I would then say, okay, now you can actually plot that now from the beginning and ask yourself all these questions I asked you. But we made the ordinary world something in the past, but let's pretend now is your ordinary world, because every moment is now. Then what do you need to do to move forward? And now you can call in some new allies, identify who they are. What's the call to adventure? What's calling you to adventure now? What's your new call to adventure? And who's the new mentor on this journey? And then move through that exact cycle the way we did it. And every time we're like you say, we're leveling up, we're leveling up, we're leveling up.
Now that's something that's going to come. Like, I can't answer that right now because I don't know.
No.
Right?
I'm sharing that with you as a final note.
I figured. Okay, perfect. Yeah, I'm like, I don't want to answer that because I have no idea what to say. It's not coming out.
Yeah. No, so I'll give you a quick example of something you've already been through, and showed you how to identify these key areas, and some new things came up around really seeing how the connecting into this observer version of yourself help you to get through this ordeal. And now we're saying, now if you're going to move forward and you wanted to use this lens, what is it? What can you do to move from this ordinary world in this moment through the cycle of the hero's journey again?
Awareness, being just like I said, being open to whatever comes next. The openness is so important, because it's impossible to, people make plans. I used to make plans for everything. I needed to be in control, and that just doesn't work. So there's certain plans and things that do work, but not the big picture ones don't work all the time. And sometimes even things that we decide we want to do don't always work out. So for me, it's just being aware in the moment of opportunities, of whatever comes up, putting myself out there, going to, like, my biggest thing I was going to do yesterday, but couldn't, was going to a coffee shop in this new location in North Carolina. And I'm like, oh no, I can't go. So I'm going to go tomorrow and put myself out there. So just to see and observe and see what
psychological
comes.
Flexibility comes with the acceptance, right? So,
So that's what my next intention is. So
wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So real quick, I know we've run out of time, but let's see if we can kind of work through this last piece. So William, you basically went through everything that you do, and that was so powerful. Thank you so much, Calvin. I mean, that hooked right into my writer's thing. So you are in the UK. I don't know if you work with people in the US, but do you, or you work?
I can work with anyone anywhere. Yeah.
So you're doing it online. Okay, cool. So in that fashion, how can people get in touch with you if they would like to connect? Yeah,
just calvinniles.com. If you want to connect with me, you can find all of my links there. And if you're specifically interested in mindful storytelling, you can also go to mindfulstorytelling.co.
Perfect. Okay. All right, Calvin.
Thank you so much.
Anything else you'd like to say before
it's been an absolute pleasure. Really delighted to converse with you, and
thank you.
Look forward to seeing how you continue to thrive in your amazing living experiment to others.
Yeah, me too. Should be interesting. Yeah.
Thank
So,
you,
all right. Well, that sounds great. Well, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for all of you being here to witness this. This was a fantastic experience, and it fit right in with everything the way I thought it was going to go. So that was a good expectation. And I guess that's about it. So wherever you are in the world, have a great day, have a great night, have a great moment. And I will see you next time on the Ride of My Life podcast.